Guys, so welcome back. So today what we're going to do, we're going to look at VirtualBox. What that will allow you to do is to install different brands of Linux on your system, Unix, or whatever it is you want to learn. In the old days, what you have to do, either you have to buy a second hard drive and to configure your system to dual boot or do something wild and crazy, or you buy new hardware, a new laptop, new desktop, which is expensive and you have to deal with, you have to need to have space for it. So what is much better is that if you can have a virtual system, meaning that you install that VirtualBox, after that you download, if somebody tells you, you know what, our system needs to have Ubuntu or CentOS or Red Hat or some kind of type of Linux, so you just download an ISO, meaning that that's the same file what you would need to build a bootable CD-ROM or bootable like USB drive. So you download that and you go to your VirtualBox and you say, let me create a new machine, and you point to that file and you can have a virtual machine running. So let's say my main computer right now is Windows, but I can have 10 different brands of Linux running one by one on my Windows machine through the magic of VirtualBox. So it's a super useful thing. So let's do it. So basically, this is the link, virtualbox.org. And it's super easy. You go in here and you go to downloads. And right now I'm on Windows, so you click on Windows host. They have like everything for different systems. You can be on Linux, you can be on OS X, you can be on a Mac. So since I'm on Windows, I click on that and it starts downloading. So right now I don't need it to download, I already downloaded that. So I already have it on my local drive, so you don't have to wait for me. And next thing is that what kind of Linux do you want? So in this case, I downloaded CentOS 6.10 because I'm familiar with it. The latest version is 8. You can download 7, but it doesn't matter. So basically, you can do search. Download CentOS, right? And it will give you CentOS.org, and that's where you download it from. People who are not familiar with Linux, basically what it is that a lot of commercial operating systems, a lot of commercial distributions, let's say you're buying Flame, right? Flame is a high-end compositor running, Autodesk is the company which makes Flame. Let's look at it. Autodesk Flame. Let's look at their website. So it's a high-end compositor, and right now they're selling it as a subscription. So you can have it as a subscription for $4,000 a year. And let me see if we can play a short video what Flame can
do. Flame is an application that is built for speed, and today everything is dictated by time. Budgets are less and expectations are high. This is where Flame proves its value. No limits, no compromises. Flame is the ultimate tool for compositing, visual effects and finishing, because it can do anything and everything. With its battle-tested toolset, including a fully featured non-linear editor, with cutting-edge conform and delivery tools like the connected conform, this allows a user to have multiple timelines all in.
So you got the idea, right? So basically, where Flame is used, I worked at multiple visual studios. One of them was Click3X in New York, and they were doing high-end commercials. And I'm talking about things like commercials for Mercedes, commercials for different cars, commercials for different high-end clients, which have budgets, let's say, starting something like from $50,000 to make a commercial to $150,000 to $200,000. Basically, what they need to do, it could be a 30-second commercial, but it have to be very highly produced with beautiful graphics. And in the old days, the only way to do it, Adobe After Effects wasn't that strong, Premiere wasn't that strong, so all the tools, if you want to do something serious, you would buy a Flame. And Flame in the old days would be like $200,000, $100,000, and what you get a very powerful HP workstation. You get Red Hat Linux, so that's why I'm talking about Linux. And then you have this custom software, which is basically doing editing, compositing, everything real time. They can import 3D images. It's a very high-end finishing system, right? And they would charge, sometimes on some projects, they would charge $1,000 per hour. So anybody who is doing, and the way they would do it, you would have a beautiful suite. So you're sitting in a beautiful room with beautiful monitors. There's a guy who is very knowledgeable. And Flame was the tool they would use to do commercials. And what was it running on? It was running on Linux. And if you look at it here, system requirements. Let's see what they're asking, right? So basically, it would run on Red Hat Linux, right? So these days, they have it also on the Mac. You can buy it on a Mac. But if you want to have it on Linux, you would have Linux CentOS 7.4. So the latest and greatest what they need is CentOS. They used to do it on Red Hat, right? So Red Hat was the official distribution they would support. So basically, that's how I know about it, that CentOS is the free version of Red Hat. Red Hat, if I'm not mistaken, it was acquired by IBM. I believe so. Let's do it. Let's check it. Red Hat Linux. Yeah, so this is their website. So basically, what's going on is that open source environments are very popular, but for big corporations, they need to have somebody to support them. So Red Hat was the company which would allow you to buy open source Linux distribution, yet you have full support for it. So that when something breaks, if it's a server, if it's a high-end system, like if you're doing some compositing, you cannot have it that there's nobody to support and there's like one guy somewhere in the basement. So Red Hat was the main system which would use to do something serious in the enterprise environment. So, and CentOS, there was a free flavor of that. And those two are very popular. And so we're going to look at one of them, right? So we downloaded VirtualBox already. I downloaded CentOS. The latest and greatest, you can click on download. I saw latest and greatest is 8. Basically, we can download it too, but I download version 6. It doesn't matter. At this point, we're just trying to understand the principle, right? So let's look at it. I downloaded it, and let me see where it's sitting here in the folder. Yeah. Let me bring this thing here. So I have a folder, and I have VirtualBox, and I have CentOS already downloaded. That's the ISO file we will need later. So let's install VirtualBox. It's very easy, couple of clicks, it comes up. It's probably going to ask you where do you want to install it. I'm going to install it, let's install it on the D drive. Instead of the C drive, I'm going to install it on the D drive simply because I have more space on the D drive. Okay. Let's browse for it one more time. I'm going to make it shorter. Yeah, by the way, VirtualBox was acquired by Oracle. Oracle is another great big company. And so let's install it, create shortcut, create desktop, quick launch bar. That's fine. Okay, that's fine. It's complaining. It's warning us that it will reset the network. That's fine. So it's installed. Installation very simple. There's not much to it. Oracle Corporation Universal Serial Bus. Yes, let's install it. Okay. So it's installed in VirtualBox from the company called Oracle. And it doesn't require a reboot. You see it said like, okay, it came up and it's installed. Let's see if it's going to come up for us. Welcome to VirtualBox, right? So here's what it is. If you just installed, if you never used it, you're going to be like, oh my God, what is this? So you installed it, and now what? So now you need to create a new virtual machine, right? So we're clicking on new. We're going to call it CentOS. Cent. Again, as you remember, I recommended not using spaces. CentOS, and I'm going to call it version 6, right? By default, it want to put it on a C drive. We're going to tell it to go somewhere else. We're going to tell it to go to the G drive, and we're going to make a folder. We're going to call it VirtualBox. I'm going to make it VB VMs, something like this, right? I made a new folder. We're gonna put it in there. If you install it and by default you just kind of like, if it's wanna put it on a C drive and you agree with that, it's also no harm with that. It's not a big deal. And let me see if we have CentOS on the list there. By default, it wanted to give it to us as Red Hat. It's okay. If it wants to make it Red Hat, it's not a big deal too. Red Hat 64-bit. This is a very similar operating system, so that's fine. So now it's asking how much memory do you want to give it? I would give it more. I would give it like at least 4 gigs. And again, it's only going to use that RAM. It's only going to use that random access memory when you start it. If you're not using it, it's not going to use it. Create a virtual disk. That's fine. Recommended. Create a virtual disk. Okay, so that's fine. We're using virtual disk. VirtualBox disk image. That's fine. We're going to use virtual disk. Dynamically allocate. That's fine. So then it's asking, okay, how much space do you can give it? So let's say we're going to give it something like 20 gigs. Right, so something like this. And it gives you again one more time where it's going to put it, right? So just keep notice of that. That's where that's where the hard drive of the virtual machine will go. Create, and boom, it's created, right? So you're saying, okay, I created, but now what? So now that virtual machine is sitting there, but it's not started, right? So if we start that virtual machine, it's going to ask, okay, but where do you want to boot from? So let's start it. We're going to start it. Okay, and it's saying it's smart enough. It knows that you didn't give it a boot drive yet. So it's saying, okay, please select where you want me to boot from. Let's point to the file which we already downloaded. So we downloaded, it's on a G drive. On a G drive, I have the name is my company name, Virtual Vision Flight, and in there there's a folder called Software, and that's where the ISO is. So remember, ISO is the file. It's about 2 gigabytes file, 2, 4, depending what it is. In the old days, you would make this, you would download this file and you would burn it to the DVD or to CD. In other words, this is where it's going to boot from. That's how it will know how to load the operating system. So we point into that and we say start. And it's starting. You see, it didn't like the image. It's saying no bootable media found. So this, what we downloaded is not good. So we have to download it again. Okay, that's fine. It didn't like the ISO file which we downloaded. Guys, so welcome back. So what happened is that on a previous recording we stopped where it failed. We successfully installed the VirtualBox from Oracle. But when we started to load the image, it said like, hey, like this image is not bootable. Right? So what we did is that I went and I downloaded a different image. And the problem was that on the previous recording it was DVD number 2. So DVD number 2 wasn't bootable. So this I downloaded DVD number 1. And I clicked on a couple of screens and I deleted the existing virtual machine, set up a new one. And basically it asked me like, what is it you want to install? And I said, I want to install a desktop with a couple of components, couple of like a web server, NFS server, like MySQL engine. We're going to need it later on. And right now it's loading. And I'm going to come back once it's installed and I'm going to show you how it looks. And again, to kind of like to remind you what's going on is that we're installing a virtual operating system on our Windows machine. We're using Oracle VM VirtualBox to host multiple operating systems. And it doesn't have to be CentOS. We're going to download different ones. And once it's working, we'll be able to have multiple operating systems running side by side. I think you're getting the idea that you can install different things. And then I'm going to record another segment when this is finished. Then we'll have multiple operating systems running side by side. And that's going to be the setup of our virtual environment for doing all kind of testing. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll come back with one more thing, but it's almost done. Thank you. Guys, so we're back. We installed CentOS, and I also installed a different brand of Linux called Bodhi. It's a small, lightweight, like nobody heard about it, but it seems to be like an interesting thing just to illustrate the point. So CentOS is booting up, and I'm going to show you how it looks. And I'm going to show you that we can have two operating systems running side by side. Like main Windows is the one hosting the VirtualBox, and then we're going to have CentOS and another Linux-based operating system running side by side, right? So this one, the CentOS came up, and it's asking me to select the user, and I have the password. And it logged in, and let's see, let's make it encapsulated. So basically what we're looking at right now, it's a virtual operating system, right? So I have applications. Let me go to System Tools. Let me go to Terminal. Right, I have a terminal. I configured it already to be like in the colors I like. So basically at this point you can type any kind of Linux command. Remember I was showing you in DOS it's dir, in Linux it's ls, like in list. You can type in who am I, one word. It will tell me who is the user. You can type ps, meaning process, ps minus ef. That's the way to list what processes are running. Right, so we have a bunch of processes. There's a nice Unix command called top, which is kind of like showing you which processes are running right now. And if we do Control-C, we cancel that. On Windows, we had ipconfig. On Linux, it's ifconfig. That's the command which will show you the configuration. I will need to do extra step. I will need to connect my laptop using a wire. Right now I'm in wireless, and it's having a problem to get an IP address. So if I open like a browser right now, it will not be able to connect. But once I connect it through the wired and I change settings, we'll do that as a separate thing. But right now it's fine. But basically what we're interested in right now is that we're browsing we're working on a Linux system, right? So I have Windows. On Windows, we install the VirtualBox, right? And inside that VirtualBox, we install CentOS, right? So from here, any applications which are running, which are available, we have image manipulation programs, we have all kind of calculators, all kind of like tools. We have, let me see, system tools. Let me see what is interesting. Disk usage. We can look at System Monitor. So basically, here it is. We're running on CentOS. We're seeing different processor. We're seeing like file resources and a lot of. By the way, let me see if that came up. No, that didn't come up, which is okay. So we can see what storage we have. df-h will show us like what storage we have. So right now we have attached file system about 11 gigabytes, right? And 41% of it is taken. We use in 41. This is the media which we use to install from, right? So basically at this point, you can learn everything you need to learn about the Linux operating system on your Windows in this virtual environment. And just for the fun of it, let's power up the second virtual machine, because I promised you that we'll have like two of them running side by side, just to convince ourselves that we have two different operating systems running. And this one is running here. Let me bring it in here. Okay, so we have the second virtual operating system is coming up, and it's called Bodhi Linux. It's some kind of like Bodhi as in like Bodhi tree under which Buddha was sitting from the Buddhist mythology. When he was sitting under the tree and he realized the highest truth, he became the enlightened one. So they created this nice like looking like Linux. So when it comes up, you'll see how it looks. But that's not even the point. The point is that we're running CentOS, and we're going to have another virtual operating system coming up. So, and that will be enough. Once I configure the network, we'll be able to interconnect between the two. Right now, it's kind of like a learning environment, but it's like a sandbox. It's completely isolated. So let's give it a second to boot up. And you see it's coming up, it's displaying all kind of interesting things. And so very soon we're going to have a second desktop coming up, and you'll see, yeah, Buddy Linux. Right, so let's make it larger. Something like that. So this thing is also like its own like small lightweight operating system. Right, so settings, wallpaper, let me see, where we have applications. Applications, system tools, terminal. So if you want to know the host name, you're going to type the command host name. So this guy is called Body VirtualBox, and this guy, if you type in host name, it's called CentOS 6. So right now we have 3 machines, one physical machine, the Windows machine, and if I open the command prompt here, let me do cmd, right? So this is my physical machine. I open a DOS command prompt, it's a Windows system, right? So if I type in the same command, same exact command in all of them, host name. So this is a desktop and it has a name on it, right? Like we can rename it to something else, but it doesn't matter, right? So, and who is the user? I'm the user, I'm logged in. So all the DOS commands, they're here. Remember, like I was showing you, dir, and what else? What else were we showing you? ipconfig. So this is the physical machine with IP address I'm getting from my gateway and everything else. And these guys, if I do if config, it's a virtual machine. This guy is a virtual machine. Let's see. If config. Right? So if I type in here who am I? Right? So what is the user? So on this one, the user is Body. On this one, the user is like if I type in who am I, the user is Mike. And if you want to know who is the user on Windows, one of the ways to do it is to type command set. It will show a lot of different things. And one of them, here somewhere, they're going to be the user. Let's see. Yeah, so username here is Mikhail, right? So on Windows, my name is Mikhail. In this virtual machine, the user is Mike. And on this virtual machine, the user is Body. So right now, we are fully set up as far as the installation. We installed 2 operating systems on top of the Windows host operating system. So we're ready to learn anything, whatever we want to learn. And again, the purpose of all this stuff is to give you the capability to have a virtual learning environment. In this virtual environment, we'll learn Unix commands. Again, from the very beginning, what did I promise you? I promised you that we're going to be very fluent on Windows, on Linux, and on Mac. On Mac, I'm going to power up my old Mac laptop. And I'm going to find out, I think Apple is restricting that you can install, Apple doesn't want people to install the operating system on a virtual machine because they own the operating system. They don't want people to fool around with that. But, we're going to have a physical Mac machine. But basically right now we have 2 different operating systems running, 2 virtual operating systems, 1 physical, and we're learning commands. We're starting to become fluent. Thank you very much for listening. And that was the lesson about installing virtual desktop and installing CentOS and a different brand of Linux running side by side. And I see you next class. Thank you. Bye-bye.